economy's all done. The person next to you will eat your lunch in a second. In a second, if their kids are starving.
We're building a web application with web forms, MVC5.
The reality of it is, you got a contract, you got to make money, or even get a full-time job, whatever.
My name is Jason Silvestri. As you know, I'm a web brand developer. I use graphics design and software development to cultivate brand messages for my clients that separate them from their competition, okay?
What's up, everybody? Jason Silvestri here with another exciting JasonSilvestri.com video. So this is obviously video 3 of the design tier phase. This is the Proof is in the Pudding web series. It's been a very cool effect I've used. You'll see a lot in documentaries. I actually learned the effect about 3 or 4 years ago from gotoandlearn.com. They had a whole bunch of tutorials on Flash and Adobe Air and all kinds of stuff, and this effect they actually did in Photoshop and then imported it into Flash and then made a Flash movie out of it. I'm going to get a little more modern with it and put it into an actual video. Alright, so a quick overview here. We're actually going to briefly discuss what's been done so far. We're going to briefly discuss the requirements, things we're going to try to avoid, and of course creating the Photoshop effect for the video. So here were the requirements we got from X, Y, and Z Incorporated. So far we actually did this top one here. We created the responsive website design for the basic foundation. I don't want you to get confused with the actual creation of the HTML5 and CSS mock-up we still have to create here. So things I'll try to avoid. I'm not going to go too deep. I am going to explain in depth what I'm doing. However, I do have potential clients, potential employers looking on all the time. So I do want to kind of cut to the chase for them as well. So slow, repetitive work, you're just not going to see it. And what I mean is, I'll, again, explain exactly what I'm doing. However, if I'm going to come to a task that I know is going to take 20 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, 4 hours, I'm not going to obviously make you sit through that. I'll just fast forward right through it. So while multiple programs, I'll try not to confuse you on the jumping around between programs. I will, however, be using several programs. Obviously, initially will be Photoshop, but of course Vegas Pro will be one. I might even be using Adobe After Effects and maybe even Flash, just to kind of show you a couple different variations. I want to make sure that this video doesn't go too long, so we'll see by the end of it. But I will let you know which software we're using when we're using it. So without further ado, I'm going to hop into Photoshop. So this is the design we actually created in the last video. I did actually made some modifications to this after I created the last video. Nothing too crazy. I just added a raster layer here, changed the opacity. I played a little bit with the warp tool. I add some stroke around these, changed the 85% to 50% because of course X, Y, and Z would have went out of business day one. I add some cleaned up the buttons, add some better verbiage. I modified the logo. Again, we didn't get a requirement for this, but I figured I'd do that. I added a real video container, and of course, more changes down here. Played with the footer, did all that kind of stuff. And there's actually, this is a very simplistic template that I created, but there's a reason why I created this look and feel in particular. I do want you to see the power of HTML and CSS in the next video. This is a perfect example to use here. So let's get started with this effect. So here we got this free photo I found on the web here. Just do a Google search on free photos. You should be able to find a bunch of test things. But because we're doing the travel X, Y, and Z app here, we want to have a very relevant photo. So what we're going to do with this is we're actually going to treat this plane as a separate entity from the back image. And how we're going to do this is you got to think of this as the foreground and you got to think of the water as the background. And we're actually going to duplicate this layer a few different times and modify each subset of each photo with certain elements and certain curvatures and of course creating masks and those kind of things. So what we're first going to do is you can actually go over to this and do a right click and duplicate layer. I'm just going to do Control J. I'm going to do that twice, 1, 2. And you can do, I think that's in Windows. I think in Mac it's a Command J. But in any case, we're going to take this first layer. We're just going to make it invisible. We want to more have that as a backup than anything else. We're going to rename this to back. We're going to rename this top layer here to front. And we're actually going to hide this back layer too. We're really just focusing on the front layer. And what we're going to again do is we're going to take this plane and have it a separate layer. So what we're going to do is kind of delete out this blue oceanness of this layer. Now normally you could use something like the delete tool, right? And you can start deleting it. Now let's just say you're going along here and you're deleting things, and then all of a sudden you delete the tail. Now that kind of stinks. So if you do Control Z, you actually lose all of that work that you just did. So part of what the Go-To and Learn guys did was they created a mask out of this layer. So a mask, you got to think of it as exactly how it sounds. Think of a mask going onto a person's face. When you treat a layer as a mask, you're really just affecting the cover of the preceding layer. So in this particular case, we're going to come down to this icon here, add layer mask, and we're going to add it to the front layer up here. Make sure it's selected and add a mask to this. And what this does is instead of using the delete tool, we can actually go up to the paint tool and click on this. We're going to change the size of the brush, make it a little bit bigger here to start doing this bigger amount of work. And the cool trick about this is if you keep the forecolor black for this tool, you can start using it as a delete tool. And the cool thing about this is if you get close to the back wing, for example, and you delete it by accident, you can actually change the forecolor to white, and it acts as a replacement tool, which is very handy. It might not seem like it now, but trust me when I say it really is a helpful tool. So without further ado, I'm going to actually fast forward through this and just get all this ocean out. I'm going to be using Control plus sign and getting real close, and I'm going to be changing the brush size to a much smaller size and delete real close to that. I'm just going to do a whole bunch of editing that takes a good, depending on how good you want it. It could take anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour or so. So I'm just going to fast forward through it and just hang tight. We're going to make this happen. All right, cool. This is good for now. Obviously, it's not perfect, but the more time you spend in Photoshop cutting out the foreground image, the better. Obviously, if we toggle the background image back and forth, we can see it's a pretty clean cut. So the next thing we're going to do is actually even cooler. I really like this effect. So we're going to shut off the front foreground, the one that was masked, and then we're going to go over to the cloning tool. And the cool thing about this is if you obviously have it on the back layer. First thing we're going to probably save. Let's do some save. Save as you know by now. So if you do Alt and then mouse click on the background image near the foreground, you can begin to start cloning the waves, and you're literally filling this in. Now this is a very cool effect, but the more you can get to the color of the background, like for example, you saw how I just took from here, colored in the front, and then came to the back here and cloned this back wave to get that sort of light as well. The more of that you can do, the better. And I find that if you click the aligned sample, if you click that checkbox off, it seems to do a little bit more. It's a little bit more easier to get this going here. So I'm going to fast forward this, but you can obviously tell just by doing this cloning tool, it really is just an amazing tool. Sometimes you have to kind of over color some of the areas, but this is it's a phenomenal tool. So I'm going to fast forward this just to get this going for you, and just hang tight one more time. So this is pretty good. Obviously, it's not perfect. If we really want to spend a lot of time kind of going in here and really coloring in all the fades, we could really do a great job doing that. But this is good for now for the demo. I'm going to save this, Always save, save, save. So what we're going to do is we're going to save these images as two separate images here. So we'll go with the plane first. The first thing we want to do is we want to deselect the back layer, and we want to save this as a ping image. Remember that you want to deselect this back image here. So I'm just going to overwrite this other one that I was playing with. Click OK. And then we're going to do the same for the back layer. We're going to deselect the front plane here. We're going to save this layer. That way we have two compositions that we can work with outside of Photoshop, and we'll do that in Vegas Pro and all that kind of stuff. So next thing we want to do, it's pretty much good to go for Vegas Pro. What I like to do is I often like to do a couple different proofs for the client. So you can go up to, say, add new adjustment layer, curves, and you'll get this layer here. So as you can see, this is like a much darker purple because of this curvature that I'm adding here. You can obviously mess around, make it go blue, white. Similarly, you can go up to layers again, do new adjustment layer. You can do like hues and saturations. Click OK. And you can really start messing around with various different tones. Obviously making the water a purplish maroon pinkish color will look kind of cool, and you can just do the same thing by saving those ping images and doing that for the client, sending them a couple different renditions. They may have some things in mind, so obviously I'm going to Control Z, get rid of that hue saturation. This will just give us two different variants to play with, and we're good to go here in Photoshop. I think we've done enough here, so now we're going to move on to Vegas Pro now. So here we are in Vegas Pro. So we're going to go to File, Import Media. We're going to take the ocean and the plane images we created. We're just going to import all that to the project here. So we're going to drag the original one we created, the ocean, to the timeline. We're also going to right-click, do Insert Video Track, and drag the plane as well. Photos you can kind of stretch on for infinity when it comes to adding to the timeline, but we're going to keep it to about 6 seconds or so. We'll keep it down by 4. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on the event pan cropping icon on this plane here. We're going to right click this and do match output aspect. Similarly, we're going to do this to the background as well. Right click, match output aspect. And what we're doing is this video in particular has a certain set of properties that we're going to use to publish this for internet video use. So this is 1440 by 1080. So by doing that to the photos, these photos happen to be a lot bigger. So what that does is shrink it down to the best it can to fit the size of the video we're trying to render out. And that gives us the best possible kind of rendition of it. So we're actually going to click on the event pan crop tool again for the plane. And right here is the timeline for this individual piece of media. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag this all the way over near the end here. And then we're going to add a keyframe. And what this does is reserve the plane's curtain aspect ratio to the screen. However, we're going to bring this to the front now and then change the scale of this plane by making it bigger. And as you can see in the background here, we're changing the size just by doing that. And now, if you go to the timeline, you can see how the plane is changing size. Similarly, we want to do this to the background, except we might want this to finish a little bit sooner. So we'll just maybe do it about, maybe here. Add a keyframe, then we'll bring it back, and we'll only shrink it a little bit, have a much slower shrink. And so already we have this kind of working 3D effect happening, which is really cool. I like this. So what we can do is obviously we can drag the other two. We can drag the plane 2, which is the darker version, and ocean 2. And then we'll do the very same thing, match aspect ratio, bring it over to about here, add a keyframe, bring it back, shrink it, background image, do the same thing, match aspect ratio, bring a keyframe to about here, plus sign, go back, and change the size to that. So already, just in a couple of minutes really, we have this kind of working setup here for them. And just, this is the effect you get. Here we had this original photo, and to go film something like this, to do video and all that, it's going to cost your client or your employer thousands of dollars, and you just took this singular photo and added wonders by using this effect. So we can do other things too, like we can just simply grab the end of this and drag it over to add like a fade effect to it. We'll do it to the plane, and we'll do it to the ocean as well. So you get like a little fade effect coming in here. We can also we can add some audio. I just happen to have a huge inventory of audio, but go in here. I'll grab some sound effects. Grab some background music. Corporate sounds good. Techno, corporate. Now it's in the project. We'll drag it to the timeline. It will create its own audio. I'm just going to shrink this out because I actually know what this sounds like. The beginning of it's kind of corny. So we want to bring the volume down on this because it's going to be pretty loud, just because the audio is good like that. And you already, here, get this kind of something you can show the client, something they can use to show their prospects. What else can we do? Obviously, just add, you can add a few more audio clips, add some text. And you can just do a lot with it. And that's pretty much it with this video. Thanks for tuning in. The next video is going to be about CSS and HTML. You know what? I think we have a little bit of time here. I'm just going to show a quick Flash example. You guys can go ahead and fast forward to the end of this to catch the next video, or do whatever you want. But I guess we have enough time here to do the Flash one as well. So we're in Flash right here. For this example, you need at least Flash Player 10 or above. I'm pretty sure that might be ActionScript 1.0. It could be 2.0. We'll just go ActionScript 3.0 for the sake of doing it. You need Flash Player 10 above because of the 3D space features in Flash. So we're going to go up to Modify, Documents. We're going to change this to 1242 by 830. We're going to do 30 frames per second here. Click OK. We're now going to go up to File, Import to Stage. We're going to click on the ocean and the plane images. There's no need to bring in the other two for this example here. So now we're going to want to go to the library. If it's not visible here, you could actually do Control L in Windows, and I think it's Command L on Mac. I could be wrong, and it will pop up for you. So that Flash actually by default creates two symbols for you. I generally don't like using that. I like to start from the original. So I'm going to drag the ocean ping to the stage. Obviously it's a lot bigger, but that's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify, convert to symbol. You can also use F8. In fact, you can actually right click on the image and do convert to symbol. So we're going to convert this image to a movie clip symbol. So we'll use back. Click OK. So now what we're going to do is something pretty cool. We're going to go up to Properties. We're going to go to the 3D Position and View, and we're going to change the Z index of this image to 1000. And what this does is it brings us back into 3D space with the Z index. So I'm going to bring this closer to the corner here. Now all that did was bring us back into Z space. It didn't actually scale us to the appropriate size. So for this case, I'm going to try like 150. So that's pretty close. Let's see here. Yeah, it's not 100%. So let's try 140. 140 seems good. So 140 might do it for us. Bring it up closer here. Now it's too small. This is good for now. I just want to show us a quick example here. So 140 is fine for this. We're at the Z index to 1000. So we want to do a similar thing to the plane. We're going to go back to the library. We're going to go to the plane, drag this onto the stage. We're going to modify, convert to symbol. We're going to call this front for the movie clip. Now we're going to change the Z index under properties for this photo to 300. And the reason why we're doing this is we want to set it back, but we don't want to set it back as far as the background image. Now this is obviously a lot bigger now to scale, so we're going to shrink the plane down to about 50% on scale wise. And again, you pretty much want to have an even change. Whatever transform size you have, you kind of want to have it exact for the other, width times height, just to make sure your images retain quality. So now we're going to do Control A, and that will select both of the images, both of the symbols now, and we're going to convert this into another symbol. We'll call this both. Click OK. So already, if you were to move this around, you could actually see what we've done in work right now. When we start adding motion tweens and those things to these objects, it's going to be respected because of the Z indexing we did in the 3D object space. So we're actually going to go up to Insert, and we're going to do Motion Tween. And what this does is it creates a section in the timeline that allows us to add a motion tween. So we're going to push the timeline to about like 360 or so. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually go back to the beginning, and we're going to start off pretty high. We're going to change the Z index now and of this both symbol here, and we're going to go out to about 370. I'm just going to bring this close here. And now we're going to go to the end of this timeline now. Click on the last frame, and we're going to simply just bring it back to 0. So I just clicked on this image to reselect it, and then we're just going to do 0. So now you can see this line here, which indicates a tween has occurred. So if we went like this to check the timeline, you can see the effect there. We're going to go up to Control, Test Movie. We're going to do In Flash Professional, and as you can see, it created a great 3D object space. That actually looks really good. It's been a while since I used Flash, so that's cool. And that's pretty much it. You could actually fast forward this, but I realized we got this done pretty quick. So I'm going to do one more example in Adobe After Effects, just to kind of throw it in there as a completed thing here. So I'm going to switch over to Adobe After Effects now. Where are we? Here we go, Adobe After Effects. It's just going to take a second to load here. Alright, so we're in Adobe After Effects. You want to click on New Composition. 1242 by 820 is actually pretty good. I'll just name this to both. Duration looks fine. Frame rate looks good. And we'll click OK. Then we'll go up to File, Import, File. We'll click on the ocean and plane images. We'll click OK. And then we'll drag these two layers to the composition. We want to make sure that the plane itself is on top. We then want to shrink down the size of the timeline of these two images to about 5 seconds or so. We don't want it to go on for too long. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to select both layers, click S, which pops open a scale, and then we want to actually click these little time watches, which what this does is it actually changes, better said, it tracks the motion you're about to do. So a lot like we did with Flash, we're going to change the size of this zoom to about 244, and the ocean we want to make it a little bit different. So we'll just do the scale of this to about no, you know what? We'll make it a little bit smaller, like 172. 154 is cool. And then we'll bring them both. We'll bring the scrubber to the end of this, and then we'll actually change. I'll select both of them by doing Control mouse click, and we'll just bring them both back down to 100 by the end of it. Actually, you know what? We want to keep that aspect ratio that we were working with. So we'll just drag both at the same time, bring it down to about 139 and 49. Then we'll say OK, and we'll go up to the RAM setting here and do the RAM preview. And what RAM preview does is it actually After Effects takes up a lot of juice to do what it does. So we do a RAM set to do a preview. I'm going to click play on this, go back to the beginning here, and we'll do play. And it's hard to tell with this because we're in this preview mode. I probably should have rendered it real quick to show you. But as you can see, the effect happens in Adobe After Effects as well. There's actually a lot better 3D effects, and this actually doesn't do justice. If this was a rendered video, you would clearly get a much better view. And that's pretty much it. I think we covered a lot today. I'm actually glad I got all three of those in. So we obviously went through Vegas Pro, Photoshop, Flash, Adobe After Effects, and this was good. So definitely check out the next video. There's still a lot more to go as far as where my skill sets lie, and I would love to bring you through the whole rest of the web application development. So stay tuned for the next one. It's going to be CSS and HTML5 development. The one after that's going to be some of the UX experience, UI technologies, maybe a little bit of Twitter Bootstrap, maybe some Angular, maybe some jQuery, and then of course we're going to go over to server-side.net, some MVC5, and we're going to also work with the data layer, the data access layer rather, in SQL Server. All right, great. Thanks for tuning in, and it was a good session here. All right, catch you later.